Classes in session. Welcome to District 25's Get to Know You podcast. Take your seats and listen as Communications Coordinator Adam Harris opens District 25 doors to you, Arlington Heights. Here we go.
Yeah, it's another edition of the Get to Know You podcast. Welcome in everyone in Arlington Heights listening. I'm your host, as always, Adam Harris. I am the Communications Coordinator for Arlington Heights School District 25. We've been doing this podcast for over a year now, and we're really going through all the principals now, and we're now at South Middle School. Principal Piper Boston, she is my guest for the Get to Know You podcast this time. Piper, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited to be here.
So, Piper, I wanted to start off, we're going to talk about, your family and, things that you're interested in and just really want to get to know you in that way. But let's first get to know you as a professional. Can you tell us about your journey? How did you become the principal at South?
Sure. How far back do you want me to go?
When did you first realize you wanted to be in education?
Well, I think I always gravitated towards education and being a teacher, and I feel like all my childhood experiences kind of led me there. So, and it was always a right fit. I would say it was early in my teaching career that I sort of loved being part of school improvement and sort of part of committees and sort of liking that leadership work as well. But then I also felt like I needed a lot more experience. So I taught for a number of years in both elementary and then came to Arlington Heights at middle school level and taught for a lot of years, but had some wonderful leadership opportunities while still being a teacher. And the year that I kind of officially became more on the administrative side, I had an opportunity to work in our now Department of Student Learning as a teacher on assignment. So I got to help with some of our district initiatives, and that really reinforced my love of leadership, but it also reinforced my missing the building and the hustle muscle of things. So I've been blessed in Arlington Heights, so I had an opportunity to be an assistant principal at the elementary level and at the middle school level, and it was South. Then I had the opportunity to become principal at Ivy Hill Elementary, and then I was asked if I would take the South position, I think probably largely because of my past experience there and a lot of turnover in that position just for different reasons. So I've been excited to now be at South for my fourth year.
Fourth year at South. When you say some childhood experiences caused you to gravitate towards education, can you be more descriptive on those?
Sure. Well, I'm the oldest of three siblings, and so I think just that alone, I was a babysitter at an early age. And so then I think the babysitting in the neighborhood, I loved coaching t-ball, and I was an umpire and played soccer and did some coaching at that level as well. And so I just think that those experiences led me to just know I liked working with kids, and that kind of followed through, and so education was a fit.
So kids, the growth in kids, that's like a passion of yours.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think correct. I think as a child, I just really enjoyed working with kids, whether it was as a lifeguard or swim instructor or babysitting. But then you're right, as I started in my education and my undergraduate work, then sort of the challenge of how can I build those great relationships, but also help them develop as contributing human beings, in the world.
So you went to Iowa State, right?
I did. Cyclone. I'm a Cyclone.
Did you like your time there?
I did. I loved it.
Yeah, I see it in your office. You have a lot of Iowa State pride.
I do.
So.
Well, I have to compete with Mr. Chung sometimes. I got to represent.
For anyone out there that doesn't know, we did a podcast with our Assistant Superintendent of Personnel and Planning, Jake Chung. He loves Iowa.
Correct.
Die hard. So it's a fun little rivalry between you guys. How would you describe South?
Sure. Well, I would say you would also see a lot of South symbols too, and I would say that throughout the school. So I think there's just a lot of South pride. It runs really deep and well past my time here. I just think there's just a lot of spirit around school spirit, pride. I think there's just a really great legacy with that. We have a lot of families that were born and raised, went to school through here, and then bring their kids and set up their families here. So first and foremost, I would say there's just a long-standing tradition of just pride and love of community and love of the school. I also hope that it's an inviting environment. I just had actually a couple of guests that were meeting with me, and they had been in our front office area for a number of minutes, and they really genuinely kind of said, wow, what a warm, welcoming environment. And
oh, that's great.
that starts with so many different individuals, but we really do want to make it that way. I'm a huge proponent of middle school, and I think it is a big transition year, so we really do try and live that model of making it smaller for kids and parents and the community, so that everybody feels like they have a place here at our school.
Do you think it's a harder transition for parents or for students going from one of our elementary schools to middle school?
Well, I hate to generalize.
Yeah.
I think everybody's had their own path, but I think generally the feedback that we receive, and then having been an administrator in the district at both levels for a lot of years, I think most kids really do make the transition from 5th to 6th really well, and I credit that to our entire system and to our elementaries as well. But the kids really do seem kind of ready for the new responsibilities. I think our school does a lot to try and help them be ready, our 6th grade team. So I think the kids, for the most part, everybody has their own trajectory, but I think the kids navigate it well. And then I think we continue to try and also help parents. I think a lot of parents navigate it as well, but I do think it's larger. And so, yes, I think there's less times where they're actually physically at the school with their kids,
right.
Less volunteering in classrooms or parties. So I think sometimes, yes, I think for them it just feels like, it's bigger and it's a little farther away from their
there's like maybe like they feel initially like it's not as connected. There's a little disconnect, but I'm assuming that's a goal of you and your administration team to really open the doors.
It really has been, and I think we really try and be communicative. There's a lot of things we have to communicate as a big school. We do our daily announcements, so I think there actually are a lot of ways we stay connected. We've got even digitally, like the Schoology, where all the assignments on our line, our parents can check their progress, and then really our Twitter presence and our website. We really have tried to kind of change that from just us pushing out information to capturing more snapshots of what happens during the day, so that they can get a picture of it. And then, frankly, too, middle schoolers sometimes go home and are really chatty about their day, but sometimes they don't tell their parents anything.
Yeah.
So I think it's also just trying to help give parents a lot more ways that they can connect with their kids and still ask them, because I promise, things are always happening and they're doing great things throughout the school day.
And like the idea is to really open that window. So yeah, that's great. So the tools and where parents can go, so it's sd25.org/south. And on that website, I know because I've been involved in building that as well, and you guys are great at maintaining it. The morning announcements section is a place where I'm sure parents can go watch a quick video or see the transcript to see what's going on through the day. The Twitter feed is at AHSD25South, and you don't need a Twitter account to follow it or to look it up. So you type into Google Twitter and at AHSD25South, and you can really scroll through the day and find that stuff. I think the band has its own Twitter. I think some of the teams have their own Twitters. The clubs have their own Twitters, the different grade level teams. So it is a lot of information that can be found by just a couple quick Google searches.
Yeah. And we hope it's just really bite-sized. So, really you could just scroll through and just get, again, a little bit of a feel for it. But then also through our teaming approach, parents can reach out to the team. They can conference with everyone. So we really do try and make it a smaller network. And I think overall parents are appreciative and make the transition along with their kids.
You're listening to the Get to Know You podcast. I'm your host, Adam Harris. We're with Piper Boston, Principal Boston of South Middle School. You can get a hold of us on Twitter at AHSD25. You can email me, aharris at sd25.org. And also log on to our Facebook page, facebook.com/AHSD25. All right, before we go to our pop quiz, I wanted to know what you think your biggest challenge as a principal is in general.
That's a good question.
Challenge often is thought of as has a negative connotation, and it doesn't necessarily mean that. It's just what is something that you tackle in the job?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think sort of striking that balance between being responsive and sort of seeing what each year brings us, what each group of kids, and responding to individual needs and sort of personalizing the school experience as much as possible, while also trying to maintain a really clear vision and protecting, some work that we really want to make happen. And I think that would probably also echo the classroom teacher as well, where you want to be flexible and responsive, but at the same time, we also want to make sure that whatever we've decided is the important work of the day gets done. So I would say, not unlike many professions, I think it's that time and that balance. And again, sort of being able to kind of be flexible and be in a moment
while still have
as needs arise, but then still kind of carrying out a good vision for work and having people feel really empowered that we're accomplishing great things each and every day.
So it's pop quiz time.
Yeah, okay. That makes me a little nervous, but I'm ready.
Pop quiz time. Pop quiz time. Pop quiz time.
All right, so 4 questions, multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank, creative thinking.
Yeah.
We'll just get your answers here and we'll roll through this. First question is a multiple choice question. I want you to put this in order of importance to you.
Okay.
Okay. Traveling, Iowa State Hawkeyes. I'm sorry. Whoops. You almost jumped down my throat. Iowa State Cyclones. I'm sorry. And then Green Bay Packers. And then watching guilty pleasure television.
Oh, wow. That just got more challenging. I really do love traveling, but if I'm honest, I would say guilty pleasure television probably emerges to the top.
Awesome.
It's just, for me, it's a good escape. What that means, I could span a varying degree of topics. And then I have to be honest, then it's a close call between traveling and Green Bay Packers, but I would probably say traveling is my second, and then my Packers are my third, and then Cyclones too, but I would say that's my order.
True or false, you still haven't gotten over Aaron Rodgers' injury?
I'm not. Yeah, I'm really not. I think that was a good testimony to. I didn't realize what a good fan I am, but I'm a good fan.
Yeah.
And so I'm taking it hard.
Well, I'm a Packer fan as well, and so it's out there. I'm telling the world, but
we'll stay banded together.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to do that for the next year, maybe.
Yeah. So
right.
I know it's happened to others, but I just thought he was a bit invincible.
Yeah. The best place you've ever traveled to?
Sure. I would still have to put at the top of my list. I lived in New Zealand. Early I student taught there and had an opportunity to live there while I student taught. And it's still, for me, one of the most beautiful places that I've ever been to, and sort of was amazing in terms of where I lived was kind of comparable to Seattle, but then you'd go 2 or 3 hours in and you might be in a rainforest, and then a little bit south you could be at a beach comparable to California. So it was also just such an interesting geography there, but just a beautiful place, beautiful people.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Actually, a follow-up to that, what do you think you brought from living in New Zealand and student teaching there? What have you brought to Arlington Heights from that experience professionally?
Well, I had gone out at that time, I'm going to date myself a little bit, but there was kind of a big literacy push at that time, and it was a little bit on the tail end of it for whole language instruction, which was a pretty organic approach to literacy development. And even as a student, I felt like that's cool, but how would you actually implement it? It was a harder one for me to wrestle. So, I think it was fortunate that I had this experience, but they were really renowned for this approach to teaching. And so when I went out there, completely got to see wonderful examples of it. But also, the country is the size of the state of Colorado. and that system has a national curriculum, and they really were able to pretty much standardize a lot. So it helped me too to always sort of say, yes, you want to learn new things, but then also contextualize it. So just knowing that, okay, well, here's where it's having a little bit of difficulty, like, and taking the good from it, but also sort of knowing that there's usually a balance. Education's a little cyclical, and usually the best ideas or the best components always rise to the top. So I think it's always going to be a hybrid, and it's always about the community and the kids you're serving.
Right, like at the base of every decision.
Yeah.
Last question. If you were an animal, you would be?
Oh my goodness. Well, I love dogs, so I guess that came immediately to mind, but I guess...
What specific dog breed would you be?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think my dog has it pretty fortunate. And she's a mix between a Jack Russell and a Chihuahua, but I'm not sure if I truly want to be her. I always feel like the golden, right, is sort of a wonderful breed. So, but I'd also happily be a shelter dog. Yeah, like lived a lot of life, a lot of different backgrounds.
I like that.
So
that's cool. So thank you for taking the pop quiz.
Yeah.
You passed 4 for 4.
Oh, good.
Last question. Is there something that you think people don't know about you? It could be, tell us about your family, but also, like, is there something about you that you think not a lot of people know that you're kind of proud of?
Well, you want me to start with my family?
Yeah.
I've got a tight-knit family, not a hugely large family. Both my parents were transplants to Illinois, so I have a lot of family out on the West Coast, and then my dad grew up in Colorado. So our Illinois group is a pretty tight-knit clan. I don't know. This is always when I feel very uninteresting, but I think I'm a good family and friends person. I'm a people person, and I really like to maintain relationships. So I'm going to a reunion for my first principal I worked with, who just retired, and about 30 of our former colleagues and friends are coming out for that. So
that's great.
I think that's
that's great. I think that does completely 100% describe who you are. I mean, you're a people person, and you really like to maintain relationships, like you said. Yeah. I think that's an awesome talent.
Oh, well, I hope. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you opening up.
Yeah, thanks.
And Arlington Heights, thanks for listening. This was a fun one to do. Again, thank you to Principal Boston. And next month, tune in, and we'll talk to another principal out in the district. Again, my name is Adam Harris, the Communications Coordinator. And goodbye, Arlington Heights. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.